We got a nice rain.
Yeah. Brings that little big lady. Y'all tell me if I'm fixing to get run over, okay? Sis. Oh, watch out. Skylar, pay attention. Pay attention to Jeff. He might do something that y'all don't know to do.
Might know something real.
Mm-mm.
No. Steve, you get motivated big one. You're getting loaded very big one. Just same thing we do with the truck.
Now, y'all very rarely do the moon and planets and stars all align, and me and Jeff get to be in the same place at the same time, but here we are at the 6th annual Brush Creek Plow Day, and Jeff is schooling me on the art of cross-haul logging with a wagon. Now, when I loaded the first log on the wagon, Jeff's wagon has blocks on it that serve as stops to keep the log from rolling plumb off. And he positioned the stops in the middle of the wagon. And here he had me square the log up to the stops first, and then I had to slide the stops all the way out to the other side. Basically, when you load the first log, you want it to stop in the middle to keep from rolling off the other end and turning the wagon over also. Now, what Jeff is explaining to me now is the fact that you have to set those blocks at different distances from the end to allow for taper of the log. Basically, you want the log to be touching both stops and be straight on the wagon. These logs are butt logs and have some taper to them, so you have to kind of stagger the stops in order for everything to sit square on the wagon.
Don't get those back and forth motions. Just pull it steady and come all the way.
Now here Jeff is explaining about the taper on logs, and if one is set too far forward or too far back, he's explaining to me about how you can hook the haul chain either forward or backwards towards the taper or whatnot to make the log run up the skid poles evenly. And another thing about these skid poles, y'all, they've got to be under the bunks and be tight on this first round of logs that are going on the trailer. Now on this part, y'all, the most important part of actually loading the log is to square your team up with the wagon 90 degrees, and you want to pull straight away from the wagon and don't look back. And make sure your team walks straight and square. And we had a little bit of a foul up here. I let my team drift just a little bit to the left, and it just didn't work quite as good as it should have. But I wanted y'all to see this so you can see what does happen. Now, I want y'all to notice how these logs are going on this wagon. On that first log we loaded, we put the butt to the front. The second log didn't have very much taper at all, and then this third log has got the butt going to the rear. And you need to stack logs on the wagon like this just so they'll all fit on there straight and even, with your bigger logs on the outside, small ones in the middle. And y'all, the next job we're going to have real long skids in certain places, and we're going to be using the wagon quite a bit to serve kind of as a horse-drawn, mule-drawn forwarder type of deal that'll save us on those long skids. And, you know, being able to get schooling from Jeff on how to use this thing is priceless, because there's so much to this wagon. Way more than what meets the eye. It is definitely a step process, and every step has to be followed to a T. Because for one, either it'll be really hard to load, or two, you'll turn the wagon over. So you know, it's a process, y'all, for real. Now, I know it's hard for y'all to hear Jeff talking, and we really didn't plan this video to be educational, but I want to tell y'all what he's telling me. Basically, he's telling me don't slam your PV into the log like that, because you can bend the tip on the PV, but rather, like he's doing there, put your foot on it, prise up on it, and it'll make it dig into the log. It'll save you PV in the long run, is what he's trying to tell me there. And y'all, look here, this video is as much for me as it is for y'all, because I can go back and watch it and look at it and see what I've, you know, learned and what we did and maybe what I can do better and whatnot. Because like I said, this next job we're going to, we are going to be using a log wagon a little bit. And I tell you, I don't know of a single person around that knows these log wagons better than Jeff Ferge. He had me hook it about 6 inches off center toward the taper. Again, I know y'all can't hear him, but the trick that he is telling me is to use a stretcher to pull my crosshaul chain with, rather than hooking a cart to the crosshaul chain, because you can't cheat left or right with the team if you need to get extra leverage because of the wheels on the cart. That's what he was explaining there. With the stretcher, they can move left or right if they need to. And y'all, the wind is absolutely horrible today, and I apologize about that. We're doing the best we can. Now this is a bigger log, but watch how much easier they load it, because we're pulling straight forward like we're supposed to. Now there's a couple things I want to explain to y'all right quick. Look where those skid poles are placed on the wagon right now. They're wedged on that log there between the ground and that log. You got to get them real tight in there and get them wedged to where when you walk the log up those skid poles, they don't slip out and come loose. Another thing, I had to move my bed chains in between the second and third log that I loaded on the bottom. I had to move my bed chain over so that way when I load these top logs, they'll go on over on the stack, if that makes any sense. And another thing, when you load that first log on the top, on the second stack, I guess, when you load that first log on there, if you'll go back and watch earlier in the video where Jeff was loading, he stuck his double bed axe in the rear of the wagon on that far side log to serve as a backstop. So when that log would roll up on top, it would hit that axe and stop instead of going on off the other side.
I'm gonna put it in your camera bag.
Now this log here, I pulled just a little bit too far forward, and Jeff told me not to worry about it. He said just roll the log over, hook the chain dead center. We did not allow for the taper but rather we just hooked it dead center, so whenever I pulled it up, it would actually walk the log back a little bit, instead of having to go around and hook to the log and drag it backwards and whatnot. And basically he said, hey, let's just let the chain walk it back, and then if the chain don't walk it back, we'll take a swamp hook and pull it back. But y'all watch how when it rolls up, it just eases back. Check this out. Hook center.
Hook center and she'll walk back. If you don't, we walk back to the hook.
What is this doing for everybody? It's like a hurting my shoulder.
Everybody told me that's why I need to get this good. I'm selling this man. He said, "Oh, man, bro, you think God is good?" I said, "Jeff, you drive."
Nah, I don't feel good.
I rode it like 3 days. I think I rode.
Now y'all, me and the mules, we made it look fairly easy, but I'm gonna tell you it's all to Jeff's credit. He was there with me every step of the way and made sure I dotted my I's and crossed my T's.